Nashville has to take that 3-1 lead. I'd be surprised if I'm hoping Colorado wins. It's Darcy Tucker's old team, the Colorado Avalanche. Yeah. Darcy Tucker's played with a lot of teams, by the way.
Hello?
Hello, it's Mike Richards from rawmike.richards.com looking for Darcy Tucker.
He is right here. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you. Hello?
Darcy Tucker, it's Mike Richards. How you doing, my man?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I am outstanding. Thanks for joining us here this morning. Just so you know, as we sit here on camera, our producer, Russell, is attempting to grow a beard, and he's having about as much success as I think about 95% of the Leafs would have at trying to grow beards.
Exactly.
He's a young Mitch Marner.
I mean,
oh, no. He's got 3 hairs.
I mean, we have the legendary Dennis Maruk coming in tomorrow. I mean, you talk about the style of facial hair. He might be one of the kings with the chops.
Yeah, he had the great chops back in the day, that's for sure.
Now, you're working currently right now with Kellogg, so you really can't work with a better company than that. But the cool thing that they have going is with the filter where it can look like you grow a beard. Why don't you explain what the contest is and what these guys could win?
Yeah, it's the greatest beard contest that we have going on. You go to www.greatestbeard.ca, and that's greatest, like Tony the Tiger would say, with 3 R's. And you get a chance to win one of 3 all-expenses paid trip for 4 people to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Well, as people are probably thinking, well, where could that be? What city do I get to go to? Are we actually entertaining that you could be going to Las Vegas for a Stanley Cup Final? Because as much as people keep wanting to say, well, they're not going to beat this team, they're not going to beat this team, they can't continue to win. Well, guess what? They're moving on, Darcy, and it was a sweep of the Kings.
Yeah, they played very well in that opening round series. Obviously, they've got a lot to prove. They did it all year long, and they did it again in the first round of the playoffs. And anytime you get goaltending like they've gotten from Fleury, you got a chance to win. And he's giving it to them here in the first round, and it doesn't look like they're going to stop anytime soon.
Well, and I'll give credit to Los Angeles. Look, they didn't want to play a team with pace. I mean, that's not how that team plays. And they needed to slow it down and have those games to be literally the kind of 1-0, 2-1 kinds of games, and they still couldn't beat them. And as well as Jonathan Quick played, it's a credit to Marc-Andre Fleury, who his story just continues to grow. I mean, he amazes me, Darcy, just amazes me.
Yeah, it does. And you know what? The problem with Los Angeles, they couldn't score goals. And if you can't score goals, you're not going to win very often in the playoffs. And Fleury was a big part of that. Anytime you get goaltending where a goaltender feels that confident, he has the experience of playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs and winning Stanley Cups. So that becomes a huge asset for any team if you have a goaltender of that ilk and can accomplish what he's accomplished in his career so far going into the playoffs for your team.
Darcy, David Bastel here. Good to talk to you this morning. Thanks for joining us. When we talk about Kellogg's and this playoff beard, the beard itself is a lot about superstition. Now, when you played in the league, you obviously grew the beard as well. Is there anything else you did superstition-wise that, you didn't change your socks, you didn't change this, you didn't, something that as long as Darcy Tucker's team, whatever team that was you were playing on, was winning, you continued to do that until you lost?
Well, it's amazing. Obviously growing a playoff beard was part of my superstition ritual as a player. My beard got better as I got older, that's for sure. Even to this day now, I got a pretty good playoff beard going right now with the one I have. But I mean, it's a little bit more gray than it was when I played. But yeah, I had other superstitions that I had. I remember when I got traded to Toronto, I would go up to my mother-in-law's restaurant in Barrie and have dinner up there. I scored my first playoff goal in the first playoff game I played with the Leafs, and so I had to do it again. The second night I did it again, and we won, and I scored another goal, and then did it in Game 6. We ended up winning that series against Ottawa. So I had certain quirky superstitions that I had other than just growing a playoff beard, but a lot of fun. I'm a superstitious guy, and even now with the Leafs in the playoffs, I'm trying to make sure that I do some of the things similar so those guys have an opportunity to win.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in your day, in your era, there wasn't any beards quite like a Brent Burns or a Joe Thornton. But who do you remember that you've played with or played against had the biggest beard, the massive beard? Maybe the guy that would actually enter this contest with Kellogg's if this was around when you played hockey.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a number of guys that I remember could grow great playoff beards. Martin Jelinek could grow a great playoff beard. Jeff O'Neill, I remember we played them in the playoffs the one year. He grew a great playoff beard, and he had a black eye that ended up becoming infamous in that series when they beat us. So, yeah, there's tons of guys that would grow some great playoff beards. Maybe not in the same ilk as Thornton and Burns, but I mean, there were some pretty good ones out there.
The O-Dog grew a beard?
Yeah, and a good one, which is shocking.
Well, yeah, he looked like Henry VIII. I mean, what? I just didn't realize he had that capability. Oh, you learned something.
He shocks you in many different ways.
Yes, he absolutely does. We're in conversation with Darcy Tucker here on rawmike.com. Everyone watching, obviously, on the dedicated YouTube channel or the website itself as we go live here today. And Darcy, it's looking at this Leaf team, they've got a huge game forward. The only thing that I look, the way I see the Leafs is this is a version of what is going to come afterwards. I mean, I think this team is still being built. This isn't the finished product of what I think the Shannon plan is, which I think a lot of Leaf fans for the most part, Darcy, I think they understand. I don't think it's if the Leafs don't get through this playoff round, I don't think, as in years gone by, because you played for the Leafs where people are jumping off buildings, I don't think there's any of that in Leaf Nation.
No, but I think, anytime you have a good young hockey club like the Leafs have, you have expectations as a fan. I think, when you look at this team, they're so talented and they got so many great young players that are fun to watch. That's what's exciting is not only the now, but the future, like you said. You get the opportunity to have good young talent on your team. You look forward to the future, but at some point you got to stand up and take a stand and say, this is our time, and we're going to work as hard as we can to make this playoffs a full success for us.
Darcy, what goes through your mind when you see Brad Marchand of the Bruins and the level of talent he has, the level of agitation he has? Like, for example, if Brad Marchand tries to lick Darcy Tucker, what happens in that circumstance?
How long you got for this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's on the internet too.
Listen,
by the way, it's on the internet too, Darcy. So you can let fly. You can say whatever you want. We've said worse, I'm sure.
No, I think obviously you said it best. He's a talented guy that likes to get under the skin of the opposition team, and Listen, I was one of those guys when I was a hockey player. I enjoyed those sorts of things of the game and the personalities of the game, but he's a heck of a hockey player, and the Leafs found a way to maybe get under his skin in Game 3. So hopefully they can continue to do that here as the series moves along.
Also, just curious too. So I was out in Calgary for 6.5 years at the Fan, and so I got to travel quite a bit. Got to know what I consider to be the just God's people out there in Alberta. But I'll be honest, it's all the prairies. I mean, it's traveling to Saskatchewan. It's going and see the great people in Manitoba. And I think, there was one time where I had to drive to Etonia, Saskatchewan. I think I went through Highway 9, through like Serial, like out that way. And
Hannah area.
Absolutely, Hanoak, which of course And the one thing that struck me when we started talking about Humboldt and just what had happened with the Broncos, you have to realize, I think, especially for people out west, like when you played hockey, when you grew up, you're traveling. You have no alternative but to be on a bus and go with the families and travel because you've got to go such a distance to get to the next town that it really, literally, is the only way to do it. And I'm thinking probably when we find out of the tragedy, for someone like yourself, Darcy, you've been on those buses. You've had that life. You've seen players that you've been with, and also family members who would also be on that bus. And I think when I look at Western Canada, who is the most resilient, wonderful people in the world, that it is probably the hardest thing I think I've ever heard. But I do know that those people will continue on because that is the Western Canadian way.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent from 15 to 20 years old, 19 years old, riding the buses out there in the Western Hockey League, and it's one of those things in life that I'm older now. I have young kids that are playing the game of hockey, and it's heartbreaking what happened out there. They've done an amazing job of trying to make sure that they rebuild the city and honor the young boys that played on that hockey club. And it's no different for me. My heart goes out to the families, and and the people of Humboldt. I look at this situation, and I rode the buses for many years, and it's just part of what happens out in Western Canada.
Darcy, thanks so much for joining us here today. The contest looks like a lot of fun, and as I said, it's hard to say what city it's going to be in, but I know I'm sitting beside someone who, just so you know, Darcy, has timed the birth of his children around his favorite player's birthday, that being Dale Howardchuk. I don't know how he did it. I don't know what kind of method that takes. I have no idea how he did it, but you can best believe that my guy beside me is thinking Winnipeg is going to be one of the teams in the Stanley Cup Final.
Well, that's great superstition right there. That's the way to do it. It's like us growing our top beards, and I'm pretty superstitious too. I got to make sure I'm having my Kellogg's Frosted Flakes during the playoffs, watching the boys play, whether it be Winnipeg or Toronto.
That is awesome. Hey, Darcy, you're
Thanks
good.
so much, Darcy.
It's great talking to you today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Cheers, guys. Have a great day.
That is Darcy Tucker joining us here.
They are great.
Yeah, they are great.
What? We just become best friends? Yep.